Yeah, it's funny how those things pop up too, because like if you didn't get stuck in a pickle, it kind of forced you to make a change. You had to do something. I think a lot of people in business are like that too. Like, it's working okay, and you don't have enough pain to actually make a move. Hey, welcome back everyone to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll. I'm here with Stephanie Betters. What's going on, Steph?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this will be interesting because it's talking about all the nitty-gritty stuff like KPIs, automations. So first, Steph, why don't you give everybody a little background on like how you got into this space?
Oh gosh, okay. I'll give you the quick version. Very first house I flipped was in 2007. We bought it 2007, right out of undergrad, college. Me and my husband just got married, bought a real stinker, lived in it and flipped it. Did really good right before the market crashed. Like we were really lucky. Then the market crashed. We went to grad school and we kind of took a couple of years to decide what exactly we wanted to do. Moved to North Carolina from Long Island, New York, where we went to grad school and wanted to start a real estate business. But after living through that stinker, I was not going to live and do another live and flip again. So the deal was we could do it as long as we could afford to do it and not live in it. So that did take us a couple of years to settle down, had some babies, and then started our business in 2014. And initial plan was just to buy some rentals. And then I know this is your MO too. It's hard to get a good deal on MLS. And like, we've got to be creative in how we're getting really good, motivated seller leads. So we started marketing. Then we started getting more deals than we could handle to either purchase or to flip. And we started wholesaling. And we kind of just went on this big journey then of building a wholesaling business. It's been an interesting journey, lots of winding roads. But now, so that company is called Better Path Homes, based out of Charlotte. It's been ticking away since 2014. Do about 200 deals a year. Last year was a little slower because the end of the year, we definitely saw some people tighten up on deciding to sell or to buy. But right back on track this year. And so out of that company, a couple other big ideas and problems were solved. One of them being systems and operations. That's kind of my brain. I'm kind of like the internal. If you had to choose whether I'm a CEO or a COO, I'm much more minded towards a COO. And I really enjoy building and executing and that problem solving, getting people in the right place and moving forward. So a big problem that we had in that business was operations and systems. I'm very passionate about CRMs and there was not a good one in our industry. So I made one.
I like it. Hey, did you ever do predictive index?
I did. Yeah.
What are you classed as?
A strategist.
Okay, it makes sense.
What are you?
I'm a captain.
Oh, you are? No, I can see that.
So anyone watching too, check out predictive index. It's a really good way to kind of give you like an idea on how your brain's thinking or even employees are thinking to put people in the right seats. All right, so cool. So 200 deals a year is a lot of deals, right? Yep. Most people don't get to that level. And you were working with your husband, right? So you got inner family dynamics going as well.
Oh yeah. That was really challenging. I mean, we work really well together and we kind of have a special teamwork approach, right? But after years of doing that, and he's a promoter, that's his profile. So it's kind of like a maverick, right? Lots of ideas, lots of excitement, which I really enjoy. Like I love that, but I can't help but execute. So he'd be like, Stephanie, we should do blah, blah, blah. I can't, I'm still executing this. Can you like have a journal or something? So that part was really challenging to separate business and home life. So in 2020, I actually stepped away as COO and we promoted our project manager at the time to the COO seat. So now they are doing the CEO, COO thing, and I'm just like an owner, you know? And so that's fantastic. I just get to go in there and sprinkle some magic and I don't have to be in the day-to-day at all.
Yeah. Was that a tough decision to make? Like, how did you guys come across? It's like, hey, we're going to do this.
Yeah, that was hard because it's your baby, you know? But, we had gotten to that point. We were riding for a while. We were doing good volume. We've set up systems and processes. We had a mature leadership team that had been there for a couple of years at that point. And, I felt like this is okay. It's okay to do this. And, I was still at that time working as a nurse practitioner. So I was still very busy at the hospital. And I kind of felt like, oh, good. Well, maybe now we'll have more balance. Well, it just so happens that's when Left Main launched also that year. So the balance didn't last for very long. But it was definitely hard to come to the decision to do it. But then once the decision was made, I felt very relieved. And I felt like this is what we wanted. This is what we wanted. We wanted to own a business. We didn't necessarily want to run the business ourselves. We wanted to own it and have it be a source of income, not a job. So that was the first step in getting there for sure.
Yeah. And you're right too. Yeah. You're either self-employed or you own a business. There's a difference. And you got to be self-employed while you're starting, but then you kind of try to scale it into a business.
Exactly. Yep. And so that's where it is. That was really the marker for that. And my husband, Zach, he works, I don't know, 5 hours a week in that company as a CEO. It's very mature. Q4 last year and really even coming into January when things are settling down again, he spent more time just making sure that we, our strategy was still good and all of our annual planning, I was a part of that too. Everybody's a part of annual planning. But then, it's kind of on autopilot again.
All right. So you got that going and that created a problem that you guys had. Probably, I'm guessing, well, you can tell me what the problem was. I'm guessing it was probably like tracking attribution, things like that.
This was about 2018 where I think everything kind of came to a head. We were growing fast. We were hiring people. We were spending a lot of money on marketing. At one point that year, we were spending, depending on the month, somewhere between $60,000 and $100,000 a month on marketing. Massive amount of money, right? Massive. Even now, it still gives me chills because we don't even need to spend that much now. But anyway, we were spending all this money on marketing, and I could not tell you what worked and what didn't work. We were just hoping the phone would ring. We're like, okay, to spend more, so the phone rings. We just need leads. And I felt so out of control. Again, I'm used to the algorithmic thinking. I like logic. I like science. I want if this, then this. And I'm risk tolerant. So I don't necessarily need it to be exact. I can make moves with framework, but we were paying 2 or 3 VAs scrape our CRM at the time. We were using Podio. So I have a huge vendetta. I hate Podio. I'm just going to say it right now. Freaking Podio. Anyway, I was paying 2 or 3 VAs to scrape Podio to populate a spreadsheet for me so I could try to interpret stuff. And that spreadsheet wouldn't make sense. And I'd be like, wait a minute, why is this number this? And I spent more time trying to figure out what was where I was in the world, what my response rate was or what my lead conversion was or how many offers we're making. What's our conversion ratio there? What marketing channel produced something? How much am I spending on that? What was my return? It was simple questions that were way too difficult to answer. And I was just we're losing money. I can tell you that right now because there's so much inefficiency. I can't even measure stuff. We're spending this money and we're losing it. So, and then it just so happens right around that time, I was about to have a heart attack over that. Podio went down for a week. And I was like, I don't know if you remember that back in the day. It was the dark ages. I was like, the phone can't ring. Oh my God. What do we do? That's kind of what made me snap in the end. And it's okay, we're going to have a business or we're going to be a mom and pop shop that is not professional and we can't continue at this rate, with this marketing spend. We have to make a decision. Are we doing this or are we not doing this? Is this serious or is this not serious? If it's not serious, then we need to completely stop what we're doing and go back to buying a couple rentals a year. But if we're serious about having a business and operating a business and growing a business and being profitable, I need a system. So that led me down the path of what's the number one CRM in the world? What do these companies use that are scaling? What do tech companies use? What do manufacturing companies use? What do sales companies use? And, the number one CRM in the world is Salesforce. So that's how I got introduced to that entire ecosystem.
I remember back in the day, this was probably 10 years ago. I come from an insurance background, right? So we're in the insurance business. I'm shopping CRMs. I set up with Salesforce. Man, is that complex.
Yeah, it could do a lot.
To set it up from scratch, it's what do you do with this thing?
Well, that's exactly how I felt too. I went through 7 or 8 discovery calls, with this big team of people, developers, the Salesforce people, all that to try to get a quote on what this would be to build. And they literally this will take 6 months and it'll be about $100,000 and then you'll be able to log in. And then we'll talk about phase 2. It's just are you kidding me? No, I can't do that. I can't afford that. There's no way I can afford that. And I can't even wait 6 months. So I flipped out in the call and was I'm just going to do it myself. And then they all laughed and thought that was really cute.
Yeah. And you know what? I've seen your dashboards there, which we'll get to in a minute, but you did a good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a labor of love for sure. And now, after we launched and, the Better Path Homes team implemented it and ran with it, Left Main came later. And thankfully now the development team we have is way even surpassed my own knowledge, but it's a testament of what you can do when you really need something done, right?
Yeah, it's funny how those things pop up too, because like if Podio never went down, you didn't get stuck in a pickle, you wouldn't have, because it kind of forced you to make a change. You had to do something. I think a lot of people in business are like that too. Like, it's working okay, and you don't have enough pain to actually make a move, especially in the CRM space. Moving CRM sucks.
Yeah, and it never tickles. Like, it's never fun to change your technology and then having to learn that. But I think the return on it is so amazing when you get the right one. And if you pick the right one that is built for growth, you never have to do it again. And that's why I like Salesforce. You cannot outgrow this thing. Like, this thing can do anything you can imagine it to do. And Amazon depends on Salesforce. Salesforce depends on Amazon. Like if you can outgrow them, then like we've got a different issue we're talking about, right? IBM, all these giant, Hulu is run off of Salesforce. You know, major companies, most major companies actually are. I think what's really cool is that we can get access to that level of technology and then not have to ever migrate again. Like, we can level up our business and all of our systems and keep it simple so that's related to us and our industry. And that was, it's kind of another rabbit trail, but there wasn't anything there for real estate prior to Left Main. So now we can have this like a really streamlined solution for real estate, yet access to all these amazing tools, you know?
Right. And that's important too, because a lot of CRMs, if it's not tailored, like you're tailored to real estate investors, so it works really well. It has what you need versus just going with one of these other like general CRMs that you can use them, but they're not custom specifically for what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And what's cool is, you can get the tailored version that Left Main has, and then you can continue to customize it because it's an open-ended system. It's not like, one of these guru spun up deals that's been around for a year. This is a company it's a publicly traded company, right? That you can continue to customize even after our initial solution. So you're never stuck. You know what I mean?
All right. So let's talk about on the marketing side. You're spending all that kind of money out there, right? And I see guys doing this all the time too, because you spend and things are going well. So you don't want to change anything, but you don't know what's working. So you can't ever scale.
When you're running really fast and you have at least some traction, it's scary to look at numbers. Like, cause you want to know, but you almost don't want to know because you are already feeling kind of overwhelmed. So I use that analogy of like the bank account when like your bills are like just about paid, right? But you don't want to go in there and look, because what if the number isn't what you want to see and then like destroys your frame of mind when you're trying to work hard and like put stuff together, We definitely had that phase in our business early on where we're like, okay, we're not going to look. It's going to be fine. I'm just going to put my head down here. And like, you're like an ostrich in the sand, right? And then the reality is, or like, I don't want to weigh myself because I knew I gained weight. And I don't want to like know what the number is, right? It's these silly things that we trick ourselves into thinking that's actually going to help, but it hurts us so badly if we don't know our numbers and we don't operate like a business, So, to come back around, like you have to know what your marketing metrics are. As hard as it is to face those numbers, it actually will empower you. So there's this initial resistance to even putting your KPIs together or like putting a goal and a number together because you think it's going to mess with your head, but it actually facilitates you to do better because now you know what the actions are that result in what you want it to result in. And then you just kind of hack the system. Then it's all math, it's all numbers. How many phone calls do you need to make? You know that you need to make 1,000 phone calls to get a deal. You know that you need to go on 5 appointments to get an offer signed. Like, then when you go and you do 3 or 4 that don't get what you need, you're like, I only need 2 more, right? Like, that's it, just 2 more. And that is what keeps you going because you have that feedback loop, and then you can predict well. And when you can predict well, it feels really good, right? Like, I knew that the Buccaneers were going to win. And then they win and they're like, yes, I knew it. I'm so smart, right? That kind of, you want that kind of return, right?
And yeah, you're right, 100%, because then you can control it. Even the sales guys, you can, okay, it takes how many appointments on average, and then you have a little bit more control. What KPIs are you seeing that are really important for investors to be looking at and watching?
Well, I'll tell you probably the biggest needle moving KPI that I encountered was the percentage of leads that are contacted. I have a lot of really favorite ones and I'll definitely get to them, but this is one that I think is really important because it's very much overlooked. And you probably have experience with this too, that we're also lead hungry. We just want leads. But then what do we do with those leads once they get to us? Like that is actually what determines if you win or not. It's like defense and offense, right? Like now you paid all that money for that lead and you got the ball in your hands, but like, what did you do with it? Did you just hold the ball in your hands, right? Like I got 20 leads this week. So percentage leads contacted changed my business for the like that was the biggest thing I did when I migrated to Salesforce and started monitoring this. And I'm sure you can find other ways to do it that, even if they're not as easy, just get this number.
Now, are you saying contacted as you actually contacted them and reached them?
Physical conversation.
Okay, so conversations, yeah.
It can be text message response. They can respond to a text. They can respond to an email. They can pick up the phone, but like a physical conversation was had. When I started measuring this, we were only contacting and actually getting in touch with 70% of our leads.
Big number when you're spending a lot of money.
And that's when math is not fun, right? Then we were just bleeding money because we were only contacting 70%. So once I knew that number, I was like, holy crap, like that's obvious. We just clearly need to talk to these people. We just paid for the lead. We're not talking to them, and they're coming in through lots of different ways. They're coming in through, from Google PPC or pay per lead sources or web forms that are being filled on our website, Facebook leads, people calling in off of a postcard that maybe we missed a call and didn't live answer, right? Like they're coming in through all these different channels, but like, are we doing a good job talking to them? So when that number, and when that number is less than 90%, that's like our hard line now, like our lead team needs to maintain a 90% contact ratio or better. It's very achievable. We've been doing that now for years. And like moving from 70% to 90% contacted changed everything downstream. Because all of a sudden now we have more qualified leads. Go figure. More appointments.
Right.
Just with that one change. So that was massive. And it also really made me think about how our operations were. So, okay, our contact ratio is down. How do we fix that? It's not necessarily the lead source, right? The leads are coming in through all different sources, and that's our blended rates. It's not the source. It's what we are doing. So are we live answering? Do I have a lead manager in front of the computer, days and weekends? Are we messaging them immediately, calling them, texting them, emailing them? Are we doing that multiple times a day? How many times does it take to actually get a hold of somebody? How many contact attempts does it take? I thought it would be 3 or 4. Nope, it's 12 to 14. So we're giving up soon, right? Do we need to send them a letter too and see if we can get them to respond to us based on a postcard, and live answer rate, like if that phone freaking rings, you better answer it live, right? There's a guaranteed 100% contact ratio if you just pick up the phone. So it made us like really dial in that. And we just became so much better at operations. And then the next question turned like, okay, how come we're contacting people who are not qualifying as many? Like, are the leads that we're getting, are they not qualified because of why? Are they outside our buy area? Is it outside our buy box? Are they just remove me from the list? Are they spam? That's really great feedback for our marketing partners because now I can say, hey, 20% of the leads you provided me didn't have a house to sell. That's a problem, right? Can we fix something with that? Or 20% of the leads are coming from Florida. I'm in North Carolina. Or maybe their house is too expensive, or maybe they don't want to sell for a year. That helps give really good feedback to marketing. And then, okay, the ones that were qualified, how many appointments were we able to set from that? And then how many of those appointments were attended? There's another breaking point, right? Like people giving you obstacles to actually getting in front of them. It's a really important metric is how did you overcome those? Like from your qualified leads, what percentage of those got an appointment? And then what percentage of that appointment was attended? So generally there's 2 breaking points there too. You want 90% of your qualified leads to get an appointment, and then you want an attendance ratio of greater than 80%. So what can we do to facilitate, making those numbers work? That's where the operations comes in. Like, are we sending appointment reminders? Are we setting them soon enough? Are we sending them too far in the future? Can we get a phone call appointment instead? Are we sending them emails? Do they know who's coming? To like putting a face in their email of like, hey, I'm Stephanie, I'll be at your house tomorrow. Does that help? All these little tweaks, and you don't have to spend any more money for those types of tweaks. You just literally have to be better at controlling and like playing chess, which ends up what I like to do, right? Like I love the chess. Right. Give me some chess pieces, I'll play the game. But you have to be willing to put the pieces in place and look at that part of your business. And then all of a sudden you get the result, and it's super fun and rewarding. Then you feel like an operator. You don't feel like you're just flailing, trying to like throw stuff on the wall and hope stuff sticks. And I don't know, spend $20,000 here. I don't know what's going to happen. Now I know, hey, every 10 leads that I get, I in general, I get about a deal, right? Like somewhere between 10 and 20, depending on the lead channel, I'll get a deal. So I know that I feed the machine and the machine will work for me. And because now I know how to turn the dials.
Yeah. And that stuff's so crucial too. Like a couple of things there. Number one, breaking it down per channel also, so you can see, okay, quality and things like that. But then you can find bottlenecks in there. You're right. Like if you're making contact with people and not booking the appointments, okay, maybe there's an issue there. Or if you're making the appointments and and then they don't show up or they cancel, it allows you to like micro look at the entire process and see, okay, what's wrong here, and then try to fix it, because that raising a percent of 10% equals real money.
Right. And that those kinds of things, like that's your highest ROI. The highest ROI you're going to get is on the time that you invest to understanding your own system and how to stop up those breaking points. And there's always going to be breaking points. There's always going to be obstacles. You're going to kind of like plug one hole and then another one springs up, right? Like that's kind of the game, but that is your highest ROI. And then what you end up doing, you know, when you kind of turn back to the beginning of the funnel now, when you've shored up everything, you turn to the beginning of the funnel and you're like, how do we reach more people, right? Now you look at your efficiencies with which marketing channel is generating the most, right? Like what's the best? Can we add additional marketing channels? And then it just becomes, we need more qualified leads. So how do we get them? Let's try other stuff, because now I feel comfortable investing in those types of things, because I know as soon as it hits my system, like the percentages are just going to work in my favor because that part is done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just math. At that point, once you get it dialed in, it's just math.
It's just math. And then there's always something that befuddles you, like the Fed, increases the interest rate 15 points that we've got to figure out how to navigate. But, you know, the time invested in your own systems and processes, like by far, the biggest ROI on your time, and probably your mental health too, because makes you feel like you're in control. And this is a crazy roller coaster, you know?
And even too, if you're looking at your numbers, so if you had a 70% hit rate and you're spending significant money, if you take that to contacts at 90%, that should increase your deal flow 20%.
Just that.
Like it should just fall down the line.
100%. Just that one change, right? That's an extra, you're doing 100 deals a year. That's an additional 30 deals. Just that one pipeline change, like 30 deals, that's the difference between making money and not making money. You know, some people run at a very small margin, just that one change. You didn't hire anybody else. You didn't spend any more money. You just had a better operation. Yeah,
and that's the important thing. You're not spending any more money on marketing doing that. It's not like you had to increase your ad spend 30%.
Exactly. You just have to know you just have to have that system, right? And then put the right people in place. And it sounds obvious to say from the outside, but it is, right? Like it's as simple as being a good steward of the processes that you're trying to put together. You got to monitor them. And for me, you know, my mind is very busy. So I need a way to do that. I need to be able to do that in a simple way. Like I need that to display to me on a dashboard that I can just pull up and like, even if it's in the middle of the night, I'm like worried about something, right? I want to be able to pull up a dashboard and be like, okay, where am I? How do we look? And I don't want that to feel like, you know, a forensic experience to try to like dig and go for what happened there. And that I just want to open up like my system and be like, tell me what happened. And then I can determine where the problem is, or if maybe there is no problem, but I can determine what's happening in like 2 minutes without having to go pay people to get shit to me. And then I don't even know what it means. You know what I mean?
Right. And yeah, you're right too, because like a lot of times, sometimes the data will be there. And if you got to sit there and like figure it out versus like, I know in your dashboard, it's almost just like these different modules that almost look like the car speedometers that you can just look at one click glance and understand what's going on versus having to like go into Excel, figure out, do formulas, things like that, and then come up with it.
Exactly. And that car analogy is great because, and especially when you're talking about Salesforce, which can be a very complex system, look at a regular car, like that engine is very complex and took a lot of thought process to put that engine together so it worked correctly, right? But the driver of the car doesn't even need to know all that. They just need to know these couple speedometers and then they can get to where they need to go. Like,
right.
You're in an extremely powerful tool, but you've got to be able to simplify it so that you can make basic decisions and accurate decisions, you know, without having to be a rocket scientist. And I think that people sometimes can be misled with thinking like, oh, this is complicated, or like this system it's not complicated. It is complex, not complicated. but you just need to distill this down to what do I need to understand? What do I need to know? And that's how do I buy more houses, right? Like that is it. So if you measure everything by that, litmus test, like, is this going to help me buy more houses? Yes or no? Can I help more homeowners? Yes or no? And what information do I need to answer that question?
If you're an investor, you don't need to learn how to build the CRM.
Yeah.
Like it's like me, I deal a lot with the houses, like we've rehab and stuff like that. Like I don't need to know how to change the plumbing. I just need to know the person that does know how to do it and pay them to do it.
Yeah. I've seen that so much. And I think it's just because of our desire to learn, and like, it is interesting, right? But I've seen so many business owners say like, well, wait a minute, I want to fully understand this first before I even introduce it to our users, our staff. I'm like, let us just train your staff. Like, your staff doesn't need to know how a trigger works or an API connection needs to work. Just know that it connects. Just tell me what you wanted to connect to and I'll connect it, So I think that we can kind of get in our own way that way too, because we're interested and it's all well intended. But then you kind of go down this rabbit trail and you have ADD and you're like, oh, what's this? And then you never get anything freaking done. I've learned that along the way because I do enjoy the details. So I want to tell you about the detail and I want to nerd out with you about it. But what I've learned over the last 3.5 years is just to say no. Like, no, it's going to work. It's going to be fine. You're going to come on. This is my system. I'm going to show you how to use it. You sit down, you look pretty. You're going to buy some houses. I'm just going to build a system for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, what do you see some of these investors coming to you? Like, what are some of the common things that people are dealing with now, like without using you guys, like before they come to you? What are some of the problems that other people are dealing with and they may not even know they have a problem?
The biggest two problems are data clarity, like where they exist in the world, what's working, what's not, and automation. Those are the biggest problems. And, this study just came out. I'll pull it for you so you can link it to it. But 28% of salespeople, so real estate professional salespeople, spend 28% of their day is spent on selling. Only 28% of the day. All the manual crap you've got to do, the drive time you're doing, the extraneous phone calls, and only 28% of your day is actually spent in the conversation where you're trying to make a deal happen.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So when you're spending a lot of money and you're moving really fast and you don't have something to help automate some of that stuff, then more and more of your day is consumed in now you have 10% of your day actually selling. So automation is gigantic, and something that I'm really excited about and passionate about is how real estate is kind of finally coming into this technology boom that we've all been feeling for 30 years. Now real estate it's slow. They're like, we're pen and paper. We're, the kind of good old boys and girls who want to talk on the phone and not use any sort of system, right? But thankfully, and I think a lot of the benefit here has come from these iBuyers really normalizing app usage and websites and automation and stuff and getting offers quick. I think the whole industry is now moving towards this. So it's more and more important to people. So definitely in the last 1 to 2 years, I would say that has even come up as a pain point. I think before that, we didn't even really realize how much of a pain point it was. But now, because I think the wave is finally crashing over us, we see hey, can that be automated? I see people asking those questions now instead of them being a new concept of, hey, you can drop this stuff automatically. You can email automatically. We can see when people open stuff. We can put people in different sequences depending on their behavior. We can analyze properties faster. We can send contracts out automatically, things like that, just so we can get a couple more percentage points towards spending time selling. So that was a long-winded answer, but those are the big ones. That data clarity, how operators can learn how to run better businesses and be owners and not employees. And then all that automation to facilitate that, so we can do more.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. Even sending a text message, it might only take 15 seconds, but when you do that 100 times, then it takes time. And then you're sending emails, might only take you 30 seconds. And if you can automate those, you're right. At scale, that saves their sales guy a lot more time so they can focus on having conversations versus following up, which you still have to follow up, but this kind of automates a lot of it like text message follow-up, email follow-ups. You can just have it in the sequence.
Right, exactly. And if you want to talk about math and numbers, imagine that you have 10,000 leads in your system and you've got to contact each one of those, let's just call it 10 times. That's a lot of tasks. That's a lot of zeros. It's 100,000 tasks that you need to do or those 10,000 leads. How can a human physically do that while still having conversations? That's just to contact them. That's just to like start the process. So it extrapolates. All of a sudden you're at 1 million tasks that we are literally doing 1 million little things all the time. Just small percentage shifts there towards automation just changes everything. It changes the whole flow of the river, right? Like you remove the big rock out of the way and like more deals come in. So I've really enjoyed that that's come more and more to the surface. I think Chat GPT has also really helped that. That only launched in October, okay? Like look at all the conversation that's happening now and how many questions people have about this. Like, how can I automate that? That's what I find is so rewarding that we're finally embracing this. But those little things, those little time savers, you don't have to spend 10 minutes looking something up. You ask Chat GPT, it spits it out for you. Like that exponential shift in efficiency is like mind blowing, you know?
Yeah, it is. And you're right. ChatGPT is like going crazy right now. Like it's kind of on the scary side a little bit. You don't know where it's going.
I know it's a little scary. But this is the cool thing. If you have good information to feed into ChatGPT, it can spit out something really intelligent. You do have to have something to give it and to ask it, right? So kind of comes back to like having good data. If you have good data, you can provide information about like your company and about the homeowner that you're trying to market to. It can spit out a great text message or a great email that you can then automate, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this. Who's your ideal customer? Like there are a lot of investors out here. Like what type of investor is a good fit for Left Main?
You've got to be marketing and you've got to want to build a business or grow your business. If you're going to buy a couple rental properties off MLS every year or every other year, this is not the system for you. This is for somebody who wants to own a business, essentially. And a big piece of that is marketing, because then you kind of are beholden to that return on investment. You're spending $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 a month. I don't care what you're spending. It just, you need to demonstrate that ROI. You don't have to be spending big numbers. You don't have to be a giant company. In fact, most of our customers have less than 6 employees. It's kind of just how it is in general, right? So it's not even about size. It's just about intention. Are you marketing? Are you building a business? If that's the case, then we're definitely the fit.
Cool. What kind of budget? Like I know it's probably custom for each person, but what kind of budget or cost should people expect?
So we have a white glove onboarding service, which is $3,500. And then the price per user depends a little bit on how many you have. The cheapest it will be is if you have up to 5 users, it's $450 a month. And this is like the full business operating system for $450. It's pretty expensive. If you have more than 5 users, then it's $50 per user.
That's not bad at all.
Like you get a break, you know what I mean? If you have more users. So yeah, and that's all the system that you need. You'll probably want to choose a phone system too. We allow you to pick whichever one you like. Those can range between like $30 and $50 a month, depending on which ones you pick. So those are the two things you'll need.
What phone system do you like the best? Which one works the best?
My favorite is probably smartphone.
Smartphone?
Yeah, I really like smartphone. I think RingCentral's okay. I think Dialpad's okay. AirCall is okay. But I think smartphone's my favorite. That's one we use.
Nice. That's good. And then a white glove onboarding too. So like, what's that entail? Like say someone says, hey, you know what, Stephanie, I want to do this. Like when can they expect to be live? How's that process look?
So you say yes, you're live immediately. You get access to your org, immediately, and then the kickoff call for onboarding is the next day. Generally, I mean, I guess if you buy on the weekend, you may have to wait till Monday. But and then on that call, what we do on that call is get everything connected and loaded up, and then we start connecting lead sources and importing. The part that takes the longest is importing. We've become a very long way with onboarding. I've learned a lot of lessons in the last 3 years on how to do this the correct way, the fastest way, and the most accurate way. And I think we've got it pretty nailed down now. We do this now in conjunction with our sister company, which is Main Dev Experts. So it's kind of like product and service, and they are 100% dedicated to service, and that's served really well. So the Left Main team is all about product, improving the product, and the whole 9 yards with the base that you get, and then Main Dev is all that service. So it's created a really nice swim lane, and people have a really great experience like that. And then we train your team during onboarding. So we typically tell people like it's going to be a month. If you have people moving in stages, it's going to be longer, but you'll be onboarded within that month, and you'll probably feel really cozy and good that quarter that you implement it. Because you have to your data over and we've got to get the old stuff in and stuff. So
Yeah, all the fun stuff.
yeah. All the little details that we do for you.
That's cool. Hey, Stephanie, if anybody wants to reach out, what's the best way to connect?
You can email me or you can find me on social, Stephanie@leftmainrei.com.
Nice. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Stephanie. We appreciate you.
With me, I appreciate it.
Right on. Hey, everyone, thanks for listening. Yeah, reach out to Stephanie. If you guys are using the CRMs, you don't have clarity and you don't know your KPIs and all that kind of stuff, you need to. So reach out to Stephanie and see if they can help you out. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, Steph. We'll talk soon.
All right.
Hey, thanks for listening, guys. Hey, remember, if you need leads, check us out, motivatedleads.com. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you next time.